Next, we will discuss about JavaScript data types. JavaScript data types. What are the types of JavaScript data types we have? We will discuss about that. Mainly, a data type determines the type of a value that can be stored in a reference. For example, I have x is equal to 10. This is I'm storing 10 value in my I'm storing my 10 value in x reference. Means if I store 10 value in x reference, JavaScript will identify this 10 as an integer value which is storing in x reference, and this JavaScript references are implicitly typed. Their data type will be determined according to the value. I'm storing 10 in my x, then it will implicitly determine the data type of x variable is 10. If I store 10.2 something 20 or 203, then our x JavaScript will implicitly determine their data type as double or float. Data type will be determined based on the value we are storing in our variable. First, we will make a note about this. A data type determines the type of value that can be stored in a reference. JavaScript references are implicitly typed. Their data type will be determined according to value. The data type supported by JavaScript to store values in a reference The data types supported by JavaScript to store values in a reference are classified into two types. The data types supported by JavaScript to store values in a reference are classified into two types. They are, first one is primitive types. Next we have non-primitive types. We will discuss briefly about primitive types and non-primitive type. First we will discuss about primitive types. Primitive types. Primitive types are nothing but the primitive types are stored in a memory stack, and this stack is accessible with a mechanism called last in and first out. They have a fixed value and the range of value changes according to the standardization. We will see how it will store our data in our primitive data type, and a single memory space is allocated to store the value, and variable directly holds that value. Just before we have seen this is a primitive data type. If you assign the variable x is directly holding the value 10. A single memory is allocated to store a value, like this is a memory. In this memory 10 will be stored. Variable name is x. This is how it stores our variable value inside memory. X is a variable name and 10 is a variable value. If you assign the variable to another variables, then the same value will be stored. For example, I am having x is equal to some 20. Then I am having y variable, I am storing x in this. If I do like this, then 20 will be stored in my x, because inside x variable we are storing 20. So whenever I am using this x variable to another variable, whatever the value we have inside x variable, that will be stored inside y variable. Now x consists of 20 and y also consists of 20. We will see a real world example of this. First we will make a note about this. The primitive types are stored in memory stack. The stack is accessible with the mechanism last in, first out. It's nothing but LIFO. This is how it will store our data inside a stack. Next, they have a fixed value and the range of value changes according to the standardization. They have a fixed value and the range of value changes according to the standardization. And next, a single memory space is allocated to store the value and variable directly holds the value. A single memory space is allocated to store the value and variable directly holds the value. If you assign the variable to another variables, then the same value will be stored. This is how primitive types works in our JavaScript. And the primitive types are created at compile time and they are stored in a stack. Inside stack, they are also known as value types. Primitive types are created at a compile time and stored in a stack. The stack consists of some value types. The value types are number, string, boolean, null, undefined. We have those value types in our JavaScript. We will discuss about that. The primitive types are created at compile time and stored in a stack. Hence, they are also known as value types. The JavaScript value types are, we have number type and we have string type and we have Boolean type and we have null type and we have undefined type. These are the primitive data types of our JavaScript. We will discuss briefly about all these primitive data types. These are the primitive types of, these are the data types of our primitive types. We will discuss one by one. First, we will discuss about number. Number data type. What is the use of number data type? A number data type in JavaScript is used to specify signed or unsigned integer. For example, I have x is equal to 10. This is a signed integer. And I have x is equal to minus 10. This is a x is equal to minus 10. X is equal to minus 10 is a signed integer. And where x is equal to 10 is a unsigned integer. If you use negative value to store in our variable, this is a signed integer. If you store positive value, this is a unsigned integer. A number type in JavaScript is used to specify signed or unsigned integer. Syntax: where x is equal to -10 is unsigned integer, and where x is equal to 10, x is equal to -10 is a signed integer, and x is equal to 10 is a unsigned integer. This is about number data type in our JavaScript. And also a number type can also be a floating point or decimal point value. Depends upon the value we are storing in our variable. A number type can also be floating point or decimal value. Means syntax where x is equal to 4.5. This is a floating point, and where x is equal to 10, 12 point some 9785. This is a decimal value. Decimal point. A number type can also be a floating point or decimal point. If I store 4.5 value in my x variable, then implicitly it defines the number type as floating point. If I store 12.976 something, then our x variable implicitly defined as the value is a decimal point. We no need to mention the data type to our variable. It is implicitly typed. Depends on our value which we are storing inside variable. And also a number type in JavaScript can also refer to exponent value. We can store exponent value inside a number type. First we will make a note about this, then we will see the syntax. A number type in JavaScript can also refer to exponent value. We will see the syntax. For example, where x is equal to 2e3. This is a exponent value. We can store exponent value inside my variable. then internally, implicitly, this x variable will determine the number type of this value is exponential value. Like how internally how it is defined is 2 into 10 power. Internally it will take 2 into 10 power 3. This is how exponential value we can assign to our variable in number type. And in number type, a string representation starting with number type value can be converted into a number in JavaScript. For that, we have a predefined methods called parse int and parse float. We will see about this. First, I will make a note about this. A string representation starting with number type value can be converted into a number in JavaScript by using the methods we have two predefined methods that is used to a string type representation with number type value can be converted into a number. Here a string represents starting with number type value can be converted into a number in JavaScript by using the methods. We have two predefined methods. Those are parseInt and we have parse float. These are the two predefined methods which can convert the number type which is starting with a string representation which is starting with number type value can be converted into a number. For example, I will show you example. I am having where a is equal to 10 AB. This is my string representation starting with, here we are seeing this is a string representation which is encoded in double quotes. My string representation starting with number type value can be converted into number type by using two predefined methods parseInt and parseFloat. A string representation starting with number type. A string representation starting with, this is a string representation which we have written in double quotes. Whatever you are writing in double quotes, JavaScript will treat it as a string representation. This is my string representation starting with number type. Value can be converted into a number. This can be converted into a number by using two methods called parseInt and parseFloat. We will see how we can do this. Where b is equal to, this is a string representation, inside I am storing number type, and where c is equal to, I want to add a plus b, but my ab is a string type which is representing a numeric value which is a number value. I am using double quotes to represent a string value. but inside this inside this string representation, I am using number value. I have to convert this string representation into a number type by using predefined methods called parse int a. This will convert my string representation into a number type. Parse int b. Now if I print this C, answer will be C is equal to 30, because it is converting my string representation into a number type by using predefined method called parseInt. This parseInt method is converting my string representation, which is encoded in double quotes. It is converting into number type as a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20. Then 10 plus 20 is added, storing in C variable. That C I am printing as 30. And when you are using string representation in number type, you cannot store starting value as a alphabetic order, where a is equal to like AB 10. This is a invalid expression, because you cannot use string representation to convert into number type which is starting with alphabets. This is a invalid expression. So this is about number data type in our JavaScript primitive types. Next we will discuss about string types. Next we will discuss about string types. String types are nothing but, in JavaScript, a string is a group of characters enclosed in double quotes or single quote. A string is a group of characters enclosed in quotes, either double quote or single quote. The quotes include double quote, and single quote. The single quotes and the single quotes are must be used for substrings. I will show you the syntax. For example, on click is equal to double quotes. Inside we will write alert. I want to use substring inside this. Then we have to use single quotes. I will write hello as string. This is how we can represent substring into a string. And also a string representation can use special characters. But the compiler or interpreter which is there in the browser cannot print the type of characters. It requires the use of escape sequence characters. Means, first I will show you the example. First we will make a note about this. A string representation can use special character, but compiler or interpreter cannot print certain type of special characters. It requires the use of escape sequence characters. For example, I will show you difference between escape sequence and what it is going to print in browser. Just now we have discussed a string representation can use special characters, but compiler or interpreter cannot print certain type of special characters. It requires the use of escape sequence character. Means, for example, I am having double slash. If I use double slash, then in my browser it prints only single slash. If I use slash double quotes, then it will print only double quotes. This is how string representation is done with special characters. Next we will discuss about Boolean types. Boolean types. In JavaScript, Boolean type stores either true or false. The Boolean values contains only two, either true or a false, and the Boolean conditions are directly satisfied by using the keywords true and false, and the Boolean conditions are directly satisfied by using the keywords true and false. We will see the example of Boolean types. First we will make a note about this. What is Boolean types in our primitive types. A Boolean type in JavaScript stores either true or false. The Boolean values are keywords, true or false. The Boolean conditions are directly satisfied by using the keyword true or true and false. So in JavaScript, Boolean type stores either true or a false. The Boolean conditions are directly satisfied by using just keywords true and false. Except true and false, we cannot store anything in our Boolean type. The Boolean values are keywords such as true and false. It will satisfy only with true and false. You cannot use other than this in your Boolean type. I will show you the syntax. For example, where in x variable I am storing true. Then internally, implicitly, our JavaScript take this x variable data type as Boolean type. Then our Boolean type allows only true or false. You cannot use other than this. I am using x is equal to true and I am using if condition. Inside if condition, I am using x is double equal to true. If condition true, I want to just alert as valid. This is how you can represent Boolean type in our primitive types. This is the syntax. Next we will discuss about null type. The null type is a primitive type which specifies that a reference is not created dynamically. A null type is a primitive type which specifies that reference is not created dynamically. Undefined is different from null type. For null type, reference will not be created dynamically. I will show you the example. The keyword null is returned when reference is not defined. The keyword null is returned when reference is not defined. And the keyword null is used to verify whether reference is defined or not. This is the use of null type in primitive types. We will make a note about this. the keyword null is used to verify whether reference is defined or not. If a value is not specified in any reference, then it is verified by using empty. If a value is not specified in any reference, then it is verified by using empty. I will show you how we can use null type in our JavaScript. Syntax. For example, I am creating a var name variable. Inside this is a empty variable. Now I want to verify whether this name consists of any string representation or it is not defined. How we can verify it? By using null type. If a reference is not defined, you can verify by using null. How we can verify whether this name consists of some string representation, either it is empty, you want to check it. How you can verify it? By using null type. Name is equal to name double equal to null, name double equal to null. Then this condition will return true or false. This is how you can work with null type. Null type is a primitive type which specifies that reference is not created dynamically. The keyword null is written when reference is not defined. And if a keyword is not specified in any reference, then it is verified by using empty. We have var with name variable. Inside, if you want to check whether this name variable consists of any string or it is empty, you can verify it by using null type. This is the use of null type in our primitive variable. You can use this condition. You can write in for loop, you can write in if condition, else condition, in any condition. You can write this condition name double equal to null. If this condition returns true, then your name variable consists of, then your name variable is not defined. If this name variable, if name double equal to null returns false, then your name variable consists of some string representation. This is how you can work with null type. We will see an example how to work with null type. Just go to JavaScript, create a new folder, a11.html, doc type, HTML, body section. Inside it section, I want to use script tag, Inside this script tag, I will write a function. Function f1. Inside this function, I will use var name variable. I want to take input from my prompt. In the initial classes, we have discussed how we can take input values from JavaScript browser. Inside prompt, I will mention your name. Then I will use if condition. Inside if condition, I will use a primitive type called null. If this name is written, if this name doesn't consist of any string representation, then this should print document dot write name can't be empty. And I will use else if condition. Inside this, I will use name double equal to null. Then I want to print document dot write you cancelled. Then I will write else. Inside else condition, I want to print document dot write I want to print hello with whatever the name user is giving for me. I want to print that. Then we have to call this function f1. So what we are doing here, from my browser, I want to take a input value by using prompt function. I am using prompt function to take input value from my browser. Then the input value I am storing in name. If that input value is undefined, then I have to print name can't be empty. Then it should print name can't be empty. If it is null, then it should print you cancelled. Means user if user did not type anything, then it is undefined. That's the reason our if condition will be executed. If user cancelled the code, if user cancelled the prompt function, then our name is double equal to null will be executed. It will print you cancelled. If user typed some other name, then our else condition will be executed as document.write hello with whatever the user has written name that will be printed. This is how our program will be executed in our web page. We will execute this, save it, Ctrl S, go to browser. Our web page is a11.html. So my prompt is appearing in my browser. Now I did not write anything in this. If I click on OK, that means it is undefined. I did not write anything. I am clicking on OK. This doesn't mean this value will be null. This is not null. This is undefined. If I click on OK, our if condition will be executed. Click on OK. It is saying name can't be empty. I did not give any name. That's the reason our name is undefined. That's the reason if condition is executed, name double equal to undefined. It is executing name can't be empty. Now next we will cancel that program. Go to browser, refresh it. I will click on cancel. If I cancel, then our name variable will be null. Just click on cancel, then it is showing me you cancelled, because whenever I click on cancel, null will be stored in my name variable because I cancelled it. That's the reason if else condition will be executed, name double equal to null, it is showing you cancelled. Now I will give some other name called HTML, or any name we can give, like we will give document. I want to just give document, and then if I click on OK, it is showing me hello document. This is how we can use null type in our web page. Null type is different and undefined is different. Undefined is for if we did not write anything, if we click on OK, then it is undefined. But if we cancel it directly, then it refers to null. This is how we can work with null type. Next we will discuss about undefined type. JavaScript variables are implicitly typed. The data type will be determined according to the value assigned to that variable. If I assign x is equal to 10, then our data type of that x variable will be integer. If I assign a string value, then the data type of that variable will be string. If a value is not defined to any reference, then it will return undefined. I will show you what is undefined type. The data type will be determined according to the value assigned. If value is not defined to any reference, then it will return undefined. I will show you the syntax of undefined. Syntax, for example, I am having var name double equal to double quotes. This is a string data type. Internally, whenever you use double quotes, this name variable will internally assign string data type. If I use var name is equal to 10, then our JavaScript internally will determine this name variable has a number data type. If I use var name and I did not assign any value for this name, then this is called undefined. Our JavaScript internally will determine this name variable is undefined data type. This is how undefined type works with our JavaScript. Mainly we use this undefined is used to verify whether the value is defined for any reference or not. The keyword undefined is used to verify whether a value is defined for any reference or not. How we will write condition? Like we can write name double equal to undefined. Then it will return either true or false. This is how we can verify whether the value is defined for this name reference or not. We will see an example how to work with undefined type. Just go to browser. We will create a function in this function f1. I want to create x variable. I am not assigning any value to this x variable. Means my x is undefined now. And I am writing if condition. Inside this if condition, if x double equal to undefined, then I want to print document dot write data type of x is not known, or else I will use else document dot write x, then I want to print x value. We have to call this method f1. Yeah, now what we are doing here, I am writing a function and I am creating a variable called x, but I am not assigning any value to this x. If I assign a string value, then internally it will determine x as a string data type. If I assign a 10 value, then internally my JavaScript will determine that our x variable data type is integer. Now I did not assign any value. That means my JavaScript internally will determine that my x data type is undefined because I did not assign any value to this x variable. That's the reason our if condition will be true. X double equal to undefined. Then my document dot write data type of x is not known. This will be executed as output. Just save it, Ctrl S, go to browser, refresh it. It is showing me data type of x is not known. My if condition is executed because I did not assign any value to this x. If I assign any value, then based on that value, my x will be determined. Based on that value, JavaScript will determine data type to this x variable. If I did not assign any value, then it will determine the value, then it will determine undefined data type for this x variable. This is how we can work with undefined type in our primitive types. We will see summary what we have discussed till now. primitive types. Data type and description. First we have discussed about string, string represents sequence of characters. Next, number data type represents numeric values. Next we have Boolean data type represents Boolean value either true or false. Next we have undefined data type represents undefined values. Next we have null data type represents null, i.e. no reference at all. This is about primitive types in our JavaScript. Thank you.